to see how they've tried to block him in 32 days in office. But despite that, I've even got CNN admitting the best consumer spending in 25 years, jobs surging, just incredible things, hundreds of billions of jobs coming back, $2+ trillion in the stock market. Dr. Jerome Corsi, of course, is an expert on the economy. He's a Harvard graduate when it gets to being involved in the economy and banking. Known Donald Trump for 40+ years. He's a 3-time #1 New York Times bestseller. I got to stop at his whole pedigree, though. But he is the Infowars.com bureau chief, building an operation in D.C. He's got stories out, report Muslim sympathizers at CIA behind Trump leaks. Obama loyalists still at CIA fuel radical Islam. And that's what this all ties into. And again, this is all, it's mainstream news that Brennan was a Wahhabist and Saudi Arabian convertee to Islam. So now he's been in D.C. the last few weeks covering all this. What are we really facing? Where are we in this country, Dr. Jerome Corsi?
Well, I think you've got it exactly right, Alex. First of all, the opposition to Donald Trump from within is really the story. I mean, just take the CIA. You've got John Brennan, and people should remember that John Brennan, it was his private security firm that in March 2008 broke into, breach Obama's passport files and sanitized the files. John Brennan at that time was heading a intelligence firm based in Arlington, Virginia. And of course, then Brennan moved into the White House as a national security advisor, one of the top advisors to President Obama, and ends up as head of the CIA. Now, I've reported extensively over the years that Brennan first of all, he studied he speaks Saudi Arabian fluently. He was a station chief of the CIA in Saudi Arabia. He studied as an undergraduate at American University in Cairo in the 1970s, where he studied Arabic. And I'm convinced that over time, John Brennan was a full convert to Islam, kept it secret, and in fact has been a Muslim sympathizer along with, and also it was a systematic packing of the CIA and other intelligence agencies with Muslim sympathizers. The whole Muslim Brotherhood infiltration of the Obama White House is one of the major scandals, I think, of the entire administration. And these people are still there. That's the problem, is that with Brennan gone, resigned, it doesn't mean that the lower levels are gone. So, well, and it's packed all through the government, including in the White House. I mean, this is the problem. It's nonsense. We've applied for press credentials, and, we're in the process. I'm sure we're going to get them. I have no hesitation to doubt that at all. But the point is, it's the blocking from within the White House and the State Department and the CIA.
Oh.
In fact, the whole top level of deputies resigned, and now Tillerson's gone to another level. It was unprecedented. 1,000 State Department officials signed a dissent memorandum against President Obama's executive order on immigration. Now, that's, to me, 1,000 names right there that should be put on the chopping block right away, because they're not going to agree with President Trump's policies. They're Obama sympathizers and loyalists, and you're going to be fighting the government from the bureaucracy and the White House holdovers. I mean, well, I think this is one of the frustrations that's going to become apparent to President Trump very quickly. In fact, I'm sure he's already aware of it, that you're going to have to clean house massively in the bureaucracy in the White House. It's almost, I think, if someone was in a bureaucratic position, any one of the agencies or the White House, when President Obama was in office. Well, see, the problem is they don't do what, this is, the State Department is essentially a rogue organization, and it has been for a long time. Well, and it is rogue because you've got holdovers from, going back to probably Jimmy Carter in the State Department, who formed years of Democratic policy with foreign countries and have a completely different agenda than President Trump. They're basically Muslim sympathizers. And the idea that they can sign dissent memorandums and publish that against the president, when in fact their appointed duty is to carry out the president's directives. No, and basically they're thumbing their nose at President Trump in the White House and saying, in the State Department, we're going to continue to execute President Obama's foreign policy, and we're not going to listen to President Trump. They don't agree with it, so they're not going to do it. That's the degree of insubordination that you're getting.
Or mutiny.
It's like, exactly. It is, in sense, it is a shadow government. It is a kind of a cold coup. It's
I just played Sekulow. It's even on Fox. They're saying it's a coup.
And in fact, Sekulow is right. I know Jay Sekulow. He's very astute. He's exactly right. I've known him for years, and his judgment's completely correct. It's also not just in the NSA and the State Department and the CIA, but it's all through these agencies. You've got defense. Well, I'm recommending very strongly that anyone who was in any of these bureaucracies or the White House prior to Donald Trump coming in needs to systematically be fired. Well, first of all, I don't think I'd worry about it. My solution, and if they are doing work, they're doing work counter to what you want them to do. I mean, the State Department, you reduce the State Department by 2 precisely. Just get rid of them. In fact, I think systematically we ought to think about which departments we need. I mean, I think there ought to be a wholesale reduction in the federal bureaucracy. All these people do is sit around and make rules. They make rules counter to what President Trump wants. President Trump needs to get rid of these regulations. There was something like 85,000 pages of federal regulations, the Federal Register, in the last year alone. And, again, these departments need to be systematically looked at. Department of Education, the fundamental question is, why do we need it?
And then we see it happening. How is it going for the globalists? Seems like they're in trouble everywhere, from the Netherlands to Spain to France to Brazil. I mean, Dr. Corsi, you've got all this news about this weird Wahhabist alliance with the former head of the CIA who admittedly converted to Islam. What were they thinking? What was the plan? And then how are they doing? Are we starting to beat them, or what's going on?
Well, first of all, it's an alliance to bring down America and to bring, a global government. It's a revolutionary alliance. The far left, which comes out of, the communism, socialism, Saul Alinsky, wants revolution. They want to see fundamental government falling down, change. So any group like Islam that is opposed to the West, is opposed to the United States, opposed to democratic systems, is going to be a friend of the far left. And the far left plays demographic games by infiltrating the country with Muslims, infiltrating the country with illegal immigrants. The demographics are changed. So the control is lost and the social tensions rise. That's social, communism. And they play that tension to create it. Now, the left is losing. You can see in the United States, Donald Trump's win, the win of Brexit. I think what's going to be a win for Le Pen, certainly in the first round. We're going to see all across the EU.
Wilders of the Netherlands, how are they going to respond to this?
Well, the left is going to go increasingly violent. The protests, and we were at the inauguration. These protesters are hard left. They're being trained. It's a combination of Soros, and now you've got Barack Obama with his Organizing for America. We just had released this weekend a whole organizing manual. These protesters are being trained. They're being, and even how to infiltrate these town hall meetings, where to sit, how to sit in groups, what signs to bring, how to disrupt the meetings. You're going to see, like you saw in Washington during the inauguration, violent protests, breaking windows, throwing rocks, people dressed in black.
And
he's the real deal. I'm betting on Donald Trump. I've seen him do it over and over again. He'll change his whole organization if he needs to. He fired Lewandowski. That's what a CEO does. If you have to get rid of the whole organization, start over again. If they're not working for you, they want to work for themselves, they can go create their own company. And it's going to be the same in the federal government. Donald Trump will persist. If he has to shut down half of the bureaucracy or 3/4 of the bureaucracy, if he has to start in some of these agencies and fire by... And if they got civil service, reassign them to Nome, Alaska. Say, good, we can't fire you, so you report tomorrow in Nome, Alaska. That's where your new office is. Good luck. because you can reassign them, you can make them quit.
Well, Doc, come back on tomorrow, and soon we're going to launch more shows and be on more than just 4 hours a day because people want the demand. They need to hear it. But just what else is on your radar screen with your great work you're doing?
Well, I'm going to release a whole series of articles this week and show that it really was the Democrats who were being paid by Russia. We've got and the Washington and Podesta. We've got the. He was getting stock from this company Jolie, it was in WikiLeaks, and I've also spent a career in international finance. I mean, I know how money laundering works. Remember, I caught HSBC money laundering. I was the one who blew the whistle, cost them $1.9 billion. I had 1,000 pages of records from John Cruz. I knew how they were laundering money. I brought down HSBC. No, it was all, and also Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton had pass-through accounts. She was getting money off the books from Russia. She was being paid for the uranium. Both Podesta and Hillary and the Democrats were transferring technology to Russia, and Russia was paying him handsomely. If Hillary had won, Russia would have been blackmailing the Democrats left and right because they have all. That's what they constantly, the far left, when they know they're vulnerable, when they know they're going to get caught, they blame you for doing what they did. Hillary knows we've got the data. I've been working on this now for 2 years. Well, he's got to go after them. Trump has no choice. I mean, Hillary Clinton's not going to go away. Barack Obama's going to sit in D.C. and cause trouble. Well, and let's go through the chapter and verse of how the Clinton Foundation was a money laundering scheme, how the Russians were using it as a money laundering scheme, and how Barack Obama knew it, because it has to be known by certainly by the NSA was knowing it. It was monitored. Well, the Russians basically wanted Hillary to win. I've said that from the very beginning. The Russians didn't intervene in this election. They weren't hacking the data. Assange said that he got the data. I'm convinced Assange got the Podesta emails from within Podesta's own office.
Sure.
It was a Democrat that turned them all over.
Well, they shot him in the back. We know that. We'll do this. Come back on tomorrow, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Central. Let's talk about it. Let's flesh out where you think things are going. Dr. Jerome Corsi, Infowars.com.